intervention are not so much to fix the value of the Indian rupee because it's free to find its own ways.
Every hour of every day, these government facilities turn paper into currency. To keep up with the nation's demand, RBI produces crores of rupees daily.
But the question is, if banks and governments can create money, why don't they just print infinite amounts of money and make everyone rich? The truth is, physical currency is just a small part of this puzzle. Today, over 97% of India's money is digital currency.
Government ने launch कर दिया है e-rupee, जो है इंडिया की official digital currency.
And this number is growing by over 6,000 crore rupees every single day.
There is no collapse of the rupee.
So, where does all this money actually come from?
A currency is a currency only when it is issued by the central bank, even if it's a crypto.
Se encontraron a pesar de todo.
Before reaching your bank account, this money has passed countless hands. Governments, people and businesses after it was typed on a computer or a mobile. In this documentary, we'll learn how money really works, drives the government, increases inflation and ultimately puts you in debt. But in order to understand how we got to this point, we need to go back to a time where there was no money. Thousands of years ago, if a farmer needed a new tool, he would simply go to the local tool maker. But since the farmer did not have anything to give to the tool maker, they both simply agreed that in the future, he would have to give something to him. Because the tool maker trusted the farmer, his promise was an accepted form of payment. Now 2 weeks later, the farmer comes back and brings some food from his farm as a form of payment. To make transactions easier, people started to pay by using commonly used items such as cattle, grain and salt. These items were needed by everyone but were hard to come by, and that is what made them valuable.
Ahora soy dueña de mis amores, no voy a perderla.
So now when the farmer needed to make a new tool, he would simply bring a bag of grains from his farm to make the payment. And this exchange would be fair, as in the end both the parties would leave with something valuable. Soon the demand for trade grew so much and paying using random objects was not good enough. So people started using smaller coins of expensive metals like gold and silver to make the payments. These were smaller in size and would last forever, unlike cattle or grains. Suddenly, the trade around the world opened up and people started trading things all the way from China to Europe. But traveling with so much gold was heavy and dangerous. And suddenly, the idea of money started to change all around the world. In the 17th century London, trusted goldsmiths started to take in people's gold coins, promising to look after them for a small fee. In return, they would give the customer a piece of paper, a promised note that allowed them to get their gold back at any time. The key to this paper was that the person could go to any goldsmith in any town and get back the exact same amount of gold coins. The paper itself was not valuable, but it became as valuable as gold. Okay, let me simplify this for you. Let us say two people come with 100 gold coins each to the goldsmith. Now the goldsmith has 200 coins. He writes 2 promised notes, each worth 100, and gives them. Now these two people go to other vendors to buy something. Instead of giving the vendor the coins, they decide to give them the promised note, saying that he can redeem the gold coins whenever he wants to. Similarly, the vendor, instead of redeeming the coins, uses the promised note again to buy something. Now the goldsmith started observing that people are not redeeming the coins, instead they are using the promised notes. So now they started giving fake promised notes to people as loans. Now eventually when the person returns that back, he has to give the original amount plus the interest. So this helped the goldsmiths earn a little more. Now from that single loan, the total amount of money in existence increased, whereas no new gold coins were produced. This meant that the money in people's hands were much more than what actually existed. As long as everyone did not come to redeem the promised notes for gold coins at the same time, everything would be fine. So now if we replace the goldsmiths with today's banks and the promised notes for today's digital currency, we would have the money system. When the 17th century goldsmiths started handing out fake money, it had a huge impact on the economy. Before that, there was no new money that could exist in the system. Whatever was already there would just move in a cycle when a transaction was made. But this system had a major flaw. Okay, now imagine a group of 4 people having 100 rupees equally between them. If person 1 pays person 2 for some food, it moves the money around, making it uneven. Then person 2 again pays person 4 for a service and the money moves again. Note that every time money is passed and a new transaction is made, value is created and increases the productivity. But with a few transactions, the ultimate distribution of money becomes uneven and fewer people are able to participate, reducing the output. This system only works if everyone pays each other the exact same amount of money at the same time. But in the real world, this is impossible. By adding more money in the system, it allows the businesses to grow and boosts the economy. So, there is a need of constant flow of new money in our current system. But how is this actually done? We think of banks as places to store our money, but that is not really how banks work. When you give your money to the bank is in debt to you. Now, the numbers that you see on your account is not real cash that is sitting somewhere in a locker. Rather, they are fake promise notes that the bank gives you and promises that you can redeem your money whenever you want to. A loan is the exact same thing, but in the opposite direction. When the banks lend us money, we are in debt to them. They don't get poorer by lending us money just like the goldsmiths. Rather, they just type in new money into your account, and this money never existed before. Now you use that money, and when it's time to return back to them, the money gets cancelled out and the bank gets to keep the interest. But with that money, you brought a car and the money entered into the economy, powering 100 other transactions. All of these transactions, the value and productivity would have never happened if the new money would not have entered the system. But the problem is that new money doesn't always guarantee productivity. If there is a constant flow of new money, but the production of new goods is less, then there would be inflation in the market. And this is the exact reason why banks cannot keep on printing new money. Earlier, the banks could only lend out a portion of the actual money that they had in their backup supply. But nowadays, almost all the banks have the complete freedom to lend out as much money as they want. And if they are falling short in their backup supply, they can simply go to the central bank and ask for more money to lend. And this is where things get problematic. To create new money, the governments create a bond, which is essentially a loan that provides a steady income. The banks, governments and foreign countries buy these bonds, and this money goes towards the government's budget. The government then uses this money to pay back to the banks and to the people. The problem is that the government often spends more money than it makes. So now this difference has to be paid by the taxpayers' money. Last year, the Indian government spent close to 47 lakh crore rupees. But the taxpayers' money was not enough to cover that amount. So the government issued new bonds, borrowing more money and adding to the national debts. And so the cycle continues. It might seem surprising that this method of injecting new money into the economy works, but this is exactly how a lot of countries around the world operate, including India. It is not necessarily a problem, but it is not an efficient way to use it. If more of this borrowed money was used in truly productive sectors such as infrastructure, healthcare, education, and small businesses, the returns on this money would be much higher in the longer run.